Welcome to the Create, Connect, Convert.co podcast, where big dreams and bold moves come to life. If you are an innovative, legacy-driven female business owner or entrepreneur who's here to grow, glow, and get it done, this podcast is for you. This isn't just another business podcast. Oh no. Here we've got four powerhouse women, each bringing a unique flavor of expertise to help you sharpen your brand, build profits, and bring that much desired freedom to your life. It's like having four mentors in your pocket. We're here to laugh, to get real, and to remind you that business is meant to be fulfilling, fun, and full of possibilities. So wherever you are today, grab this moment and fuel your creativity, because Create, Connect, Convert.co is here to help you build the business and a life you've been working for. So, hey there, welcome back to Create, Connect, Convert.co. I'm Laura Templeton, your host for today, here with my amazing co-hosts. And I'm excited to be sharing the topic for today, which is the art of personal branding, standing out authentically. So we're going to dive right into this. And I just love sharing about branding. Branding is my jam. I am so excited to be talking about this because I think there's so many things that we can unpack when it comes to branding. I personally love talking about brand communications. Brand communications to me is all about what you are saying, what content you're creating, how you are embracing what you're doing, and speaking from a place of authenticity, right? Being able to connect on a deep emotional level with your audience is about being very purposeful in what you're sharing. It also has to connect with what you're putting out there visually, because if you're visual and you're verbal are connected, it can sometimes look a little messy. So we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to dive in here because one of the things that I want to talk about is really understanding how important branding and building a strong brand makes a difference to your audience and who you're trying to attract. So let's dive into understanding the defining moments around the brand essence. So, Regina, I'm going to ask you to jump in here. I know that you are all about branding as well. It's one of your many gifts. Carolyn and Christy get it too. They've done a dynamic work of their own. I mean, when you see Carolyn's logo and her little, emoji with her glasses and everything, I love it.
Glasses? I know what have I done?
Know
Where
it's
are
Carolyn.
they?
Where are your glasses, girlfriend? So branding is so important, right? And I think that's the biggest thing that people need to understand when it comes to the essence of the work that we're doing.
Yep.
And more importantly, Regina, let's talk about, what do you believe are the core elements of an authentic brand essence?
Well, it has to reflect that business. It reflects the business values. It reflects what what the actual business is, what your product, what your services are, the look of it, so, and also very importantly, your key target audience. All of that kind of comes together as a brand. Um, Super important work. I think that's like the basis, like the primer of anything. Before you start painting over and everything, you've got to have those basic, and I call it basic, but it's really not. It's so important to have all those elements together in a brand. Am I wrong, ladies? What do you say about?
No, I love that. I love that. And you're absolutely right that, really bringing all the core values, right, really enhances the brand essence and brings it all together, right? It's the foundation. Carolyn, Christy, weigh in on that. What are your thoughts around that? And even from the idea of bringing the professional, your personal values into your professional brand. A lot of people almost feel like, sometimes their brand for their business is very different than their personal brand, and yet sometimes they intertwine. So,
I'm
Christy, can
all
you weigh
about
in on?
like, oh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead, Carolyn. That's okay. No, Carolyn, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's being authentic is so important to me. And I think there's no place anymore for being sanitary, buttoned up, like it's like you have to let your personality shine because there's so much competition out there. There are other people who do what you do, and someone's going to want to work with you because they match your vibe. They like you as a person. And if you're not showing who you are as a person, then you're just getting forgotten about. It's too boring. And if you I mean, I personally have not come from the corporate world, so I don't know, but my impression is that transitioning from corporate to being your own entrepreneur, small business owner, it's very challenging to let loose and let your personality shine. But it's absolutely critical, I believe.
And but I do want to jump in and say if you're looking at a small business and it's got a core person, then yes, that can come into play with that. But if you're also looking at a business that, for instance, you want to step aside and not be the core person, that can also showcase its own personality and its own values. So let's say, and by values, I mean like, are you thinking you're eco-friendly and you're looking at that? Are you looking if you have different products and they don't test on animals? Are you on the cutting edge and you're always high tech and you're always looking at that and all these different values that you bring in reflect in that brand. So you kind of got to see, do you want to be the core
Such a good
personality?
point. And like, I guess it's almost part of like the branding board. The branding board is more than the logo, the colors, the fonts that you're going to
Yes.
use, but it's also like, what is the personality of what we put out there of our content? So yeah, I would imagine that's super important if you're working with a group. And for example, doing our, create, connect, convert.co with all four of us with very different personalities and ideas coming together and making it a cohesive brand.
Mhm,
So
mhm. And we made
that's
it
that's a
happen.
new one for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, we're
Yeah. And
doing
I
good.
think that, yeah, so far. So, and I love that, the distinction between if there's somebody who's the central figure of the business, right? So for my business, even with my first book, I'm all over the cover, right? My face is the cover of my business. My brand is me. Whereas, as I think about moving forward and at some point in time, I may consider selling my business. How do I separate myself from the brand that I've built around my own personal image? So those are things that you need to think about, especially from the branding aspect, right? But I think more importantly, your mission statement, your values, your branding documents, right? There has to be a cohesiveness in them, especially when you start to onboard team members or you hire contractors, right? Christy, talk about that a little bit, from your experience from working
Wow.
with clients, right? From, who have a very specific brand and how you need to be able to understand their brand so that you can serve them well.
Yeah, it's looking at so much more than say going to their website and seeing, yes, we can sit down, we can open up somebody's website and read through and what are the words on the screen, what are the images that we see.
Mhm.
Um, but for me, it's also, yes, it's our core values are so integral. They're so intertwined into not just our business, but how we live life as a whole. And somebody you mentioned before, Laura, it might have been you. Are your business's core values, is there overlap between what yours are as you as a human, as a person? And I think more and more people are diving into that. They're looking at, let me do that core values exercise. Let me pick from this list and narrow it down, and narrow it down again. Like, what are your top 5 core values? And every decision you make, every thought that you think, every word that you speak, are they in alignment with your core values? And for me, one of the big things that I look at when I am looking at a prospective client is I look at, what are they saying as we're talking, but also what are they not saying? I look at, what is their energy? What is the energy that they are giving off? What is the energy that their branding is giving off? What do they want the world to know about themselves and their brand? And is what they're sharing with the world right here, right now, in this moment, congruent with what they want to share? Because sometimes there's not, and that mismatch is painful.
Beautiful. I love that. And you're absolutely right, because sometimes what they're saying could be very different from what they're how they're showing up, right? And or I've seen misalignments happen when somebody's business is expanding and they have those aha moments when all of a sudden they're like, wow, this is what I really want to do. And now they're not in alignment with what they've already established. So how do you help them bring that into alignment? Obviously, Carolyn, what are some of the processes or exercises that you go through with people who are now creating new funnels and new websites and when the branding isn't speaking to who they want to be as opposed to who they were?
A lot of that part of it, I think, is pretty like I go by intuition. Looking at someone and like, okay, well, you told me that your ideal client is somebody who is this, and this, maybe somebody who's gentle and soft, and here you've like downloaded a funnel template from somebody that is, bang, 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 bye, bye, bye. So like that's a very obvious mismatch. And I think there's a fear to put your own spin on it because it's like, download this template, it's proven conversion, blah, blah, blah. It converts for them because that's their personality, and your personality is going to convert for you. So you have to not be afraid to change it all up and do things in a way that feels authentic for you. And to not see it also as all separate elements. Like I have my web page and then I have my landing page for my funnel way over here, and it's completely different. And to me, it's like it's a cohesive whole. Your online presence is a web. On the World Wide Web, it should be a web. And it's all like connected up so people know and build that trust with you. Because if they don't even realize you're the same person, then you're missing out on those touch points of like somebody getting to know you.
And that's a beautiful point. The building of trust, right? That comes with consistency. When your brand is consistently speaking, both visually and verbally, it really does start to build trust within the people that are attracted to you. It starts to build trust. They see that there's consistency in everything that you're putting out. One of the things I really want to talk about too here is the infusing of personality into your brand's touch points. Regina, can you share a really good example of a brand that successfully infuses their personality into its messaging, not just and to their visuals as well, like where there's a consistency within that brand? Can you give us a good example?
One of my, I'm not sure it's well, I do like this brand, Anthropology, but I recently, and I'll tell you why I'm talking about them, because I recently taught a Pinterest class and I was showcasing their Pinterest account, and they had their logo, but the main colors were burgundy, when burgundy was coming across on all their Pinterest. And I was like, man, they are right on, because burgundy is not even one of, it's the hot color of the season. And so because that's one of their values, always being on the cutting edge, always knowing what colors are happening in fashion and in home design. And they brought it all in. And so everything that they reflect was burgundy. And I was like, wow, that's quite amazing for a team to work on that. For me, that's one of the key things. And to go back to something that Carolyn said, and Christy too, about voice and about what you're saying to me. If you kind of so getting very clear on that. So for me, my voice is, I have 4 words for that, and it's kind, informative, inspirational, confident. Those are mine. And so whenever I write anything, any communications that are going out, I'm looking at it and making sure that it embodies that voice, because That is who I am. And that is actually who my target audience responds to. You know, and that target audience is going to find you. But, you know, when you look at going back to anthropology now, when you're looking at their descriptions, when you're looking at their photographs, they have a certain look, they're very aspirational. The descriptions hit at the target, you know, at the heart of their target audience. So everything kind of works cohesively to build a loyal customer base.
That's beautiful. I love it. And that's a great example. It really is a great example. And I think that's so important. And to come back to what you were saying about the voice and knowing what, words, that's one of the things that I love teaching people how to do when they're using AI nowadays, because we can actually program the AI with that knowledge, right? When we have all of our branding
Yes.
details ironed out and laid out really well, you program that into AI, and AI can really help you build that consistency in the messaging that you're putting out there. Right. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about knowing yourself, knowing your brand, knowing who your audience is, and being able to then take that information and either provide your marketing team with that information, or B, putting it into the AI generators that will help you create the content that will help you be more consistent in what you're putting out into the world. So I think that's very powerful in making sure, I love that you hit on that about knowing those key words that you want to make sure that voice carries through, and how you speak is so beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's really important. And so one of the things that, what's Carolyn, what's some advice that you would offer for professionals who are afraid of being too personal in their branding? Have you ever experienced something like that? Somebody who might be a little bit afraid to bring their own personality into their brand?
I would recommend playing with it, testing it out. And, it's kind of like an A/B testing type thing where you can see, do you get more response from emails or posts that have personality or that don't, and kind of feel your way into it. And this goes back to one of those like maxims that we hear, that you can't be for everyone. And we want to serve every single person in the entire world. And we know that what we do is so wonderful and so important, and everyone would benefit from it. And like, yes, but when you speak to everyone, you're speaking to no one. And I hope that you have heard that before. I first heard this concept actually in poetry. My bachelor's degree in poetry was, we were talking about how you can't use generic language in your poetic descriptions because it's just flat. It doesn't speak to people. And you think, well, the more general I can be, the more people will relate to it. But it's actually the opposite. The more specific you can be, the more people relate to it, even if they don't match those specific things. A poem about a blonde man in 1800, but if you get real specific on the details and the emotions of it, I'm going to relate to that. And so you do need to let go of the worry that you're going to turn people off, because you want to turn people off. The more it's magnetic, if you want to have people drawn to you magnetically, you also have to have the opposite of the magnet, the people that are pushed away. Because the stronger you're pushing away the wrong people, the stronger it is for the right people to find you, to notice you, to see you. And maybe that's kind of contributing to the polarization in our world, but it is. You want to stand for something, and you want people to know what you stand for, because those people will also stand for the same things, and you can just bless and release those people that don't.
You know, I'm sorry, Christy, go
No,
ahead.
please, no, please go ahead, and then I'll go
I,
after you.
I loved, thank you. Um, I loved what you said about target audience, like thinking who that end user is and what they're going to respond to. Because if you're confused, about where you are, then flip it and start the other way. Who is the target audience and what are they going to respond to? Like the people reading the poetry, they're not going to respond to general. So then you go with more descriptive. So that's where you start off. And I love that. Okay, Christy. That's all I had to say.
As I was listening to you, Carolyn, so many things came up for me, but one of the chief things that I wanted to say to you is how many newsletters are we subscribed to? How many posts do we see on social media all the time? How many ads do we see on television or here on the radio or wherever? And when we can be personal and really get at the heart of something, and we can allow ourselves, give ourselves permission to open up and share and be vulnerable, that strikes a chord in our audience. And I could see absolutely, because you're so, all of us, I see how we weave examples into the work that we do with our respective clients. And I could absolutely see you pointing out, okay, brand A, you see here the kinds of stories that they're sharing and they're being vulnerable. How does that make you feel when you hear that? And I think that when we see other people in action doing that, it feels like it makes it safe for us to do it. And then how does it register for you when you see that? It's like, oh, this person gets me. It gives us a feeling of safety that if I reach out to this person and buy their product or their service, or I align myself with that person, that feeling of safety, that psychological safety, that's so critical, I think.
And that's beautiful. Christy, thank you so much for sharing that, because one of the biggest things that we do know, and especially when you are very specific in who you're speaking to, understanding your target audience, in the marketing world, in the branding world, that's where we start, right? We really start in having a deep understanding of who your ideal client is and being able to speak to them on a deep emotional level. You see that in TV commercials, right? They know who their audience is. They know what they're going to say. They make sure that they have a call to action that's going to inspire people to want to lean in. You get some corny TV commercials that just like don't speak to anybody, but hello. But apparently they're making a lot of money, and they know what they're doing. I get it, right? So let's talk about this. The client connection is so important. So connecting with clients through an authentic brand presence, how do we do that, right? What role does trust play in connecting with clients, and how can a brand cultivate that? So jump in here. I think that this is a great topic for all of us to have, to really express what our thoughts are around this. So, Christy, why don't you jump in there and see, share with us what you think regarding, the role that trust really plays in connecting with our clients and how we can cultivate that.
I think that when we ourselves operate from a place of trust, do we trust ourselves? Do we trust our decisions? Do we ground down into that trust? Then when we communicate with the world, hey, this is who I am, this is who I help in the world, this is what I stand for, that energy is transmuted out into the world and people feel that. And how many times have we heard somebody say, I don't know what it is about that person. I'm just so drawn to that individual. And I really am a firm believer in that energetic connection. So I think that it's the clearer we are about ourselves and who we are and what we do and what we stand for, the more then that clarity is then transmuted into our communications. And then the world feels that. Carolyn, I saw your hand go up as well.
Yeah. Something that Regina said, I wanted to expand on. You said that we start by thinking about the target client and what they respond to. And that is also the case with something like a lead magnet. The lead magnet is the free thing that you're giving away on your website. And it's not really free because you're asking for contact information. And that is a pretty powerful form of internet currency. So people give you their email address in return for some kind of free item. And that item is not random. It's not like, let me just, I've got this thing floating around. It's very strategic. You think about what is something that my target client is going to want, is asking for, will be able to utilize. You know, if your target client is a soccer mom who is home 5 minutes a day, maybe she doesn't want a like 18-hour course on the computer. Maybe she wants a podcast. Like, you think about, who is this person? What does their life look like? What's going to fit into their life? And when you do that really well, then your email list is full of ideal clients. It's not just anybody, it's people who wanted that thing that is very closely related to what you talk about and what you're going to be helping them with.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and
Beautiful.
for me, client community, I'm just going to jump in on this one to talk about lead magnets. For me, one of the highest forms of client communications between me and my target audience is my newsletter. And I have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Friday. And you would think that it would be unsubscribe, 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 but it's not, and it's, I've got pop culture references. As 25 pounds of information in a 5-pound bag, it's,
This is what I always say is, your email can be the one that people look forward to getting. In that mountain of emails that Christy was talking about, you can think about, how can mine be the one where they see it in their inbox and they go, oh, yay, I get to
yeah.
see that person.
And
The
it goes back to,
unsubscribes are
sorry,
going
go
to
ahead.
come. The unsubscribes more often come from, you didn't email enough and people don't remember who you are or how
Yes.
they met you. And they're just like, what is this?
Yes, I've gotten emails. Okay, I have to be very frank. I love newsletters. I like being very informed. I love getting them. I like seeing what people are talking. I get like getting personalities. But if I get one that I'm like, how, who, what? No, I never signed up for it. I probably did a year ago, but it's yes, but Carolyn, it is about, finding that tribe, finding that communication that is between you and your audience and they vibe with you, like you said, Christy, and then pulling it all together.
So, ladies, we are almost out of time, and I love this conversation. There are so many good things that we can do, but I think the biggest thing to remember too about branding is speaking to your ideal audience, understanding that speaking to them with authenticity is so powerful. And I love what you're sharing, Regina and Carolyn and Christy. The gift of giving somebody good content to read that shows up on a regular basis with consistency in their inbox is one of the simplest ways that you can show up authentically. Week in, week out, they get to experience your personality. They get to experience your brand. They get to see who you are and that you are consistent in what you are delivering. And I think that consistency in your brand, showing up with consistency visually, verbally, what you're giving them, it's a gift. It's a gift. There are so many people who do such a great job starting out with a newsletter, starting out with a lead magnet, and don't follow through. And unfortunately, the follow through, yeah, Carolyn, I know, me too, right? There are times in my life where I've become a hermit. It's part of my human design. And I like, oh, I forgot. But I will tell you that it is beautiful when you start to cultivate those relationships with the clients that you want to attract to your business. And that's where the client relationship comes in,
You
right?
know,
How are you, what are the simple things that you can do to create those client relationships? So, Regina, go ahead.
yeah, I wanted to say that it doesn't have to be weekly. I didn't want to be like, oh, you need to do a weekly news. It could
Well,
be.
I'm a hypocrite because I go out there and I give presentations and I say once a week minimum. Like, you absolutely have to be doing once a week. And I've sent one in the last year. I have an email sequence. They download the lead magnet, they get emails that I don't have to think about, I don't have to do. But once that's over, right now I'm not sending anything, but I still preach to other people that they should be. So feeling a little
Yeah.
guilty about that, but
Well,
Yeah.
it
your
could be
Well,
results will be
monthly.
better than my results if
It
you
could be
do it.
monthly, could be quarterly. You just have to make a commitment to yourself to be
mhm.
consistent with what you have. And I've tried every other week, and I can't, I'm not disciplined enough to do every other week. I have to do it weekly. It's not weird. It's weird.
Oh, that's a really interesting point that we could probably unpack, but we are almost out of time. So yeah, like ladies, I don't know about you, but I could just keep on going, right? And I think that's the beautiful thing about the conversation. I think we just kind of like opened up like this whole unpacking of conversation here around newsletters and all that other fun stuff, which sure we'll be talking about in another episode. So just sharing your brilliance, right? Make sure that you are being authentic. Make sure that you are speaking to the heart of your ideal client. Make sure that you are also listening to your own intuition, your brand, your voice. Make sure that you are being heard and you are hearing yourself. It is so important to be able to engage with your audience when you're coming. It's so much easier when you're coming from a place of authenticity. So I encourage you to listen again, enjoy your time here with us at createconnectconvert.co. And until our next episode, have a beautiful day.
Bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of createconnectconvert.co. We hope you're feeling inspired, empowered, and ready to make your next bold move. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. Head over to createconnectconvert.co to download our latest resources, sign up for our upcoming events, or hop on the wait list for our exclusive mastermind community. There's a seat at the table waiting just for you. Thank you for tuning in, and be sure to click like and subscribe. We'll see you back here next week to dive into another game-changing conversation. And here's a little something to carry you until then. Keep creating, keep connecting, and never stop converting your dreams into reality.